The chamber was silent as the words of the human delegate settled into the vast air of the council hall. But silence did not mean agreement. Across the tiers of alien representatives, expressions shifted in ways only their species could display. Some rippled their frill membranes, others flexed armored mandibles, and still others swirled their colors across translucent skin in patterns that spoke of outrage. To them, humanity's words were not just bold, they were dangerously arrogant. For millennia, the council had functioned because its members accepted order, restraint, and deference to tradition. And here stood a species that had barely crawled into the stars, daring to challenge centuries of protocol within their very first speech. A Kalari delegate, whose kind resembled tall crystalline pillars that refracted light through their bodies, finally spoke, their tones sharp and cutting. This council has endured longer than your species has built cities. You will remember your place, or you will not keep it. The human representative, Ambassador Alara Hayes, met the alien's prismatic glare without flinching. With respect, she replied, her voice steady. Humanity has never done well when told to stay in its place. If survival has taught us anything, it's that our place is wherever we fight to make it. The murmurs that followed rippled like a wave, some in approval, many in dismay. For the first time in centuries, debate in the council was no longer polite or measured. The humans had injected something dangerous into the chamber. Unpredictability. Days stretched into weeks, and each session became a battlefield of words. Humans challenged long-standing policies that restricted developing worlds from advancing, arguing that enforced stagnation only bred rebellion. They questioned why certain member races were denied equal resource shares despite contributing more to defense. They even went so far as to propose reforms to the Council's military command, something that had been unthinkable for generations. At first, most species dismissed their outbursts as the noise of children playing in the halls of adults. But the strange thing was that other younger civilizations began to listen. Worlds that had always felt overshadowed by the galactic powers found their voices echoed in the humans' arguments. What had been unshakable order began to tremble at its foundations. Behind the polished speeches, however, tensions boiled. Not every alien saw humanity's arrival as an inconvenience. Some saw it as a threat. Whispers spread through back channels of plots to remove Earth from the Council by force or sabotage. One night, as Earth's delegation ship orbited the Council's neutral world, an explosion tore through its docking bay, nearly killing half the human representatives. The blast was traced to alien-made technology, but no species claimed responsibility. Many in the Council expected humanity to retreat, to accept the intimidation. Instead, the very next day, Alara Hayes appeared before the chamber with her arm in a sling, burns still visible across her face. "You think an explosion will scare us?" she said, her voice carrying more weight than any speech before. "We have survived wars that burned continents, bombs that could erase cities, and plagues that brought us to the edge of extinction. You may try to silence us, but understand this. Humans do not back down. Not now, not ever." The hall was shaken into silence again, not because of the words, but because of conviction in her voice. Even her enemies realized then that intimidation would not work on a species forged in adversity. Slowly, alliances began to shift. Younger species started to rally behind Earth's proposals, their trust in the old guard wavering. Trade reforms were pushed through with unexpected support. Discussions of military equality gained traction. The Council, once a stagnant monument of tradition, was changing, and it was because of the newcomers who refused to be quiet. But with change came danger. The elder races, who had enjoyed centuries of dominance, began to see humanity not as naive upstarts, but as genuine disruptors of the order. Some feared that if humans were not stopped, the Council would fracture entirely. And in that fear, some began preparing for measures far darker than sabotage. For the humans, none of this was a surprise. They had expected resistance, had braced for hostility, and had prepared to bleed if necessary. What they had not expected was that, in less than a decade, they would ignite something the galaxy had long forgotten. Hope. Where others bowed, humans stood. Where others whispered, humans shouted. And where others had given up on change, humans made it inevitable. The galaxy had invited them into its highest council, thinking they would be manageable, controllable, perhaps even forgettable. Instead, it discovered that humanity could never be contained. The crisis began on the fringe of council space, in a sector most of the elder races barely acknowledged. A developing world, Veres, rich in rare minerals and home to a fledgling civilization, suddenly became the center of a storm. For centuries, the council had maintained a quiet agreement. Worlds like Veres were to be protected but not developed, their people observed but never uplifted. It was a doctrine rooted in caution, but in practice, it served the interests of the powerful, ensuring resources stayed locked away until they were needed. When a consortium of elder species attempted to strip mine Veres under cover of emergency military requisition, humanity's delegates erupted. "This is not protection," Ambassador Hayes declared to the chamber, her voice shaking with fury. "This is theft, cloaked in bureaucracy. You claim to guard these worlds, but what you really guard is your monopoly. How long do you expect younger civilizations to accept this?" Her words didn't just echo in the hall. They spread like wildfire through interstellar networks. Veresian resistance fighters broadcasted her speech across their planet, while younger council members, species long overshadowed, began voicing support. Suddenly, humanity wasn't just speaking for itself. It was speaking for all those silenced by tradition. The council's elder bloc reacted with outrage. They accused humans of destabilizing centuries of peace, of inflaming rebellion, of arrogance beyond measure. One Kalari representative, his crystalline body glowing in harsh red tones, thundered, "You would tear apart the foundation of galactic order for the sake of primitives?" Hayes met his refracted glare with a chilling calm. "No," she said, "we would tear apart injustice for the sake of survival. Because if it can happen to them today, it can happen to us tomorrow. And humans don't wait politely for the knife to fall. We catch the hand holding it." The chamber dissolved into chaos, delegates shouting across translation channels, some demanding sanctions against Earth, others calling for a formal review of council law. But the matter didn't end in debate. Within days, human freighters, escorted by Earth's modest but stubborn fleet, arrived in Veres' orbit, carrying medical aid, food, and defensive supplies. It was a direct violation of council protocol. Worse, it was an undeniable declaration of defiance. Humanity had chosen a side, and it wasn't with the powerful. What followed shook the council more than any speech could. Veresian militias, supplied and trained with human guidance, began to repel the mining consortium's hired forces. For the first time in centuries, the council witnessed open resistance that didn't collapse within days. The humans had not only armed the oppressed, they had taught them to fight like humans, to bleed and claw and never surrender, no matter the odds. Reports spread of Veresian fighters charging against armored drones with makeshift weapons, of civilians building barricades in cities, of strategies that mirrored Earth's own guerrilla history. Against all probability, they held. The elder species were horrified, not just because their authority had been defied, but because they recognized something dangerous. Humanity's defiance was contagious. Across the stars, murmurs rose among other restricted worlds. If the Veresians could resist, why couldn't they? If humanity stood by them, perhaps they weren't as alone as they had believed. The galaxy, long lulled into passive obedience, had remembered how to fight. Behind closed doors, council leaders debated desperate options. Some proposed expelling Earth from the chamber. Others whispered about assembling fleets to blockade human space. But nothing was simple anymore. Every move against humanity risked sparking a wider uprising. The younger members had seen too much, and they would not forget who had spoken when no one else dared. Ambassador Hayes understood the danger as well as anyone. Late at night aboard Earth's council vessel, she confided to her closest advisors, "We've lit a fire we can't put out, even if we wanted to. They'll either destroy us for it, or we'll force the galaxy to change. There's no middle ground anymore." And she was right. The day humanity took its seat in the council, it stopped being just another voice. It became a catalyst, a storm, a spark in the dark halls of galactic order. And in the shadows, as the elder races plotted their countermoves, humanity prepared for the inevitable truth. They hadn't just joined the council. They had declared war on the very way it had always worked. The conspiracy began in whispers, buried in encrypted channels and private meetings deep within the administrative spires of the Council's capital world. The Elder Bloc, furious at Earth's defiance, agreed on one point. Humanity was dangerous, not because of their technology, which was primitive compared to most spacefaring races, but because of what they inspired. In a matter of years, the carefully balanced hierarchy of the Council had begun to fracture under the weight of human rhetoric. The Varys crisis had proved something the Elders feared most. Humans had turned words into weapons sharper than any plasma blade. The Kalari, cold and calculating, drafted a plan. They would not strike openly. To do so would risk shattering the illusion of unity. Instead, they would orchestrate a campaign of containment. Resources bound for Earth were intercepted under bureaucratic pretenses. Trade partners were pressured into withdrawing agreements, and human fleets found themselves harassed at the edges of Council space by unidentified raiders that conveniently bore alien-made weapons. It was a slow suffocation, designed to strangle Earth's influence without sparking outright war. But humanity noticed, and worse, humanity adapted. Where one supply line was cut, they carved 3 more. When corporations abandoned them under pressure, humans pooled resources in decentralized alliances that no sanction could choke. And when raiders struck, Earth's modest fleets hunted them with ruthless efficiency, broadcasting the evidence across galactic networks for all to see. Each time the Elders tightened the noose, humans slipped free, exposing the rope for what it truly was. The more the Elders tried to crush them, the stronger the narrative became. Humanity was a species that could not be broken. Ambassador Hayes stood in the Council chamber during one particularly heated session, her gaze sweeping across the rows of alien delegates. "You fear us because we refuse to kneel," she said, her voice carrying like thunder through translation systems. "But ask yourselves this, when did defiance become a crime? When did survival become rebellion? We don't want to burn this Council down. But if you force us to understand, Earth has walked through fire before. We are not afraid of burning." The chamber erupted into chaos once more, but something had shifted. Younger species no longer sat silently on the sidelines. They cheered. In the shadows, the Elders escalated. A secret summit was held on Kalari Prime, far from public eyes. Representatives of the most powerful races gathered around a crystalline table, their forms casting long shadows on the glow of starlight refracted through walls of living crystal. There, they discussed the unthinkable. "The humans cannot be allowed to continue," one voice hissed, "belonging to a serpentine being coiled in the dim light. They are destabilizing everything. If they will not be contained by words, they must be contained by force." The Kalari, ever precise, outlined the plan, a joint fleet strike in the guise of a peacekeeping intervention. Humanity would be accused of violating Council law during the Varys crisis, giving them a pretext. The goal was not extermination, at least not openly, but the crippling of Earth's fleets and infrastructure until they could no longer interfere. To the Elders, it was simple. To the younger races, who had no idea of the plot, it would appear as lawful enforcement. But secrets are fragile things, and humanity had a way of uncovering them. The plot leaked, not through spies or sophisticated hacking, but through something the Elders had never considered. Empathy, a minor species, once cowed into obedience, risked everything to smuggle evidence of conspiracy to the human delegation. Their message was simple. They are coming for you, and when they do, you must not fall. If you fall, we all fall. When Hayes read the transmission, her blood ran cold. Yet beneath the fear, there was resolve. Humanity had suspected this moment would come. Now it was only a matter of when. That night, aboard Earth's flagship orbiting the Council world, she met with her military and civilian advisors. "They will strike us soon," she said quietly, "and they will expect us to break. But what they do not understand is that humanity has never survived by standing alone. We endure because we fight together, with anyone who dares to hope. If they want to crush us, then we'll show them what happens when Earth refuses to bow." In the darkness between stars, fleets began to move. The Council was hurtling toward its first open conflict in centuries, and at the center of it all stood the newest, youngest, and most unpredictable member, humanity. The fleets gathered at the edge of Sol, like a storm on the horizon. To the public, the Council announced it as a stabilization mission, a lawful intervention to correct Earth's reckless interference in the very sector. But everyone who paid attention knew better. The Joint Armada, Kalari crystalline warships, the Serpentine Dralith cruisers, the insectoid Vork hive ships, was not here to stabilize anything. It was here to break humanity before the defiance spread any further. The sheer scale of the fleet dwarfed Earth's modest defenses. Hundreds of capital vessels shimmered against the void, their weapons glowing with restrained fury. Against them, Earth had fewer than 40 war-capable ships, most of them refitted freighters and outdated military hulls. On paper, the battle was already over, but humanity had never been good at following scripts written by others. When the alien armada broadcast its ultimatum, demanding immediate surrender of Earth's council seat and demilitarization of Sol, Ambassador Hayes appeared on transmission feeds, her face illuminated by the glow of Earth's blue curve behind her. You want us to bow? You want us silent, stripped, obedient? We've been told that before, by tyrants, by empires, by forces stronger than we were. And every time, we gave the same answer we give you now. No, if you wish to take Earth's seat, then come and take it. But understand, humanity will not kneel. Not to you, not to anyone. And then the signal cut. The battle began. The Council fleet advanced in perfect formation, disciplined, precise, every move calculated. Humanity's fleet responded with chaos. Ships darted unpredictably. Formations broke apart. Tactics shifted without warning. Alien commanders, accustomed to orderly battles, found themselves confounded by human maneuvers that looked reckless, suicidal even. But the madness had method. Where Kalari cruiser anticipated retreat, the humans charged headlong, slamming their retrofitted vessels into point-blank range where alien shields faltered. Where Vork hive ships sought to overwhelm with swarms of drones, humans split them apart with electronic warfare that jammed their control signals, forcing the insect to fight each other in confusion. Every weakness the aliens had overlooked in their arrogance was ruthlessly exploited. And then came Earth's true surprise. The fleet had not come alone. Vayrisian militia craft, cobbled together from stolen alien parts, warped into the battle, followed by small contingents from other younger civilizations who had chosen to defy the Elders. The sight shocked the Council fleet. What was meant to be a swift suppression now risked spiraling into a galactic rebellion. Alien captains hesitated, torn between following orders and fearing that firing on these allied forces would make them complicit in slaughter. That hesitation was all humanity needed. On Earth's surface, billions watched the battle unfold through live transmissions. Families huddled together in shelters, children clutched in arms. Soldiers manned ground-based rail cannons that fired streaks of tungsten into the void. When one of Earth's largest ships, the UNS Resolute, rammed and crippled a Kalari war cruiser twice its size, a roar erupted across the planet. Humanity was bloodied, outgunned, but not broken. The very act of resistance became a rallying cry across the stars. In the Council chamber, chaos erupted as reports poured in. Delegates from younger civilizations demanded answers, shouting over the Elders' denials. Some openly accused the Kalari and their allies of attempting to stage an illegal coup under the guise of law. For the first time in living memory, the chamber shook with fury not just from words, but from the knowledge that a war had begun in its name. Out in the void, Ambassador Hayes' words still echoed in every broadcast, carried into 1,000 systems. If you want to silence us, you will have to kill us. And if you kill us, you will never silence what we've already begun. By the end of the first day, Sol was scarred, its orbital defenses battered, several human ships destroyed. But against all expectations, the Council fleet had not triumphed. Instead, they found themselves locked in a battle they could not easily win. Humanity had refused to fall, and worse, they had drawn others into the fight. The galaxy was watching, and what it saw terrified the old guard more than any fleet ever could. The third day of battle dawned with Earth's defenses on the brink of collapse. Cities burned from orbital strikes. Human fleets were reduced to half their number, and orbital debris filled the skies like metallic storms. The Council Armada pressed forward with grim determination, confident that humanity's endurance was nearly spent. But they still underestimated what it meant for a species to fight with its back against the wall. The gambit had been prepared in secret for months, born from humanity's desperation and ingenuity. When alien trade embargoes cut off access to vital supplies, Earth's engineers had turned their hunger into invention. They had studied every piece of salvaged alien wreckage, every scrap of captured technology, and built something the Council had never expected. Hybrid weapons, crude but effective, powered by human recklessness and alien precision. Hidden within asteroid belts and orbital scrapyards, these weapons now came alive. The first strike came from nowhere, a cluster of asteroids that, to alien sensors, appeared ordinary. In reality, they were retrofitted with engines and explosives. At Hayes' command, they ignited, slamming into the Council fleet in a storm of fire and stone. Dozens of ships were crippled before their shields could even respond. In the confusion, human cruisers charged with suicidal ferocity, dragging enemy vessels into the line of fire. It was not elegant warfare. It was chaos weaponized. But the true turning point came not from technology, but from unity. Just as the Council fleet regrouped, new signals lit up the void. Not one or two, but dozens of fleets, small, ragtag, and defiant, arrived from across the younger civilizations. Vayrisians, Kalari dissidents, even factions within species long thought loyal to the Elder Bloc. They had seen Earth bleed, and they had chosen to bleed beside it. The battlefield erupted with a new kind of war, not Council versus humanity, but oppressors versus the defiant. The Council commanders realized too late what had happened. Their fleet, though mighty, was now politically exposed. To continue pressing the attack meant firing openly on dozens of member species, some of whom were already wavering in loyalty. To retreat meant humiliation. For the first time in centuries, the Elder Bloc hesitated. Ambassador Hayes seized the moment, broadcasting across all frequencies. Her voice rang out above the chaos. You came to Sol to break us. Instead, you revealed yourselves. The galaxy sees you now, not as protectors, not as leaders, but as tyrants. Humanity is still standing. And as long as we stand, so will every world you tried to silence. Her words were not mere rhetoric. They were a declaration. Across the battlefield, ships of wavering allegiance broke formation, refusing to fire on human allies. What began as a Council mission collapsed into disarray. By the battle's end, the Council fleet was not destroyed, but was forced to retreat, not by sheer power, but by the undeniable truth that the galaxy had shifted beneath its feet. When the dust settled, Earth was scarred, battered, and grieving. Millions were dead, cities lay in ruin, but humanity still lived. And in surviving, they had done the impossible. They had cracked the foundation of galactic order. Younger civilizations rallied behind Earth, demanding reforms, demanding equality, demanding a council that was more than a monument to ancient powers. The elders, weakened and humiliated, could not ignore them. Slowly, begrudgingly, they were forced to concede. Earth was not expelled. Earth was not crushed. Instead, Earth remained in the Council, not as a junior member, not as an afterthought, but as a symbol of resistance that had forced the galaxy to remember what justice truly meant. In the years that followed, the Council was never the same. Humanity had not destroyed it, but they had remade it. No longer a stagnant hall of tradition, it became a place of debate, of struggle, of change. And at its heart sat the newest member, carrying scars that would never fade, but also a defiance that would never die. The galaxy had expected humanity to kneel. Instead, it learned the one lesson every invader, every tyrant, every empire in Earth's history had learned the hard way. Humanity may stumble, humanity may bleed, but humanity never, ever surrenders.